Greetings and salutations to all you folks out there, and welcome to the second round of the tournament. This one is taking place on adaptive Twin Rivers, and since it is the adaptive version, we've got a spawn point on the outside island. For the right side team, Achieve Jaguar is in that slot, taking Aeon. First land factory. Same story for Blast Chilled, covering the right flank of the landmass. UEF his faction of choice, and the same for Massive, otherwise known as Creature. For the left-hand team, we've got Mephi Aeon in the air slot, going for a bit of a... Wow, that's a lot of adjacency. He's going to be doing some early upgrades. Bully Dozer as Seraphim is covering the left side of the mainland, and Zoc is playing as a UEF. Nice to see him back around. Have not watched him in quite some time. Looking forward to seeing how he handles this game. Looks like Massive has popped out an early engineer to go and suck up that reclaim on the front line. Second engineer as well. I'd love to see some other combat units to help protect those, because we know that there's going to be a fight in the middle from the very earliest portions of the game. Zoc putting out an engineer, mech marine, and scout to go and secure the front line for him. That mech marine's actually on a move order over towards the rear of Blast Chilled's base. That will hopefully let him pick up an engineer kill very early on. NG and tank plus scout out for Bully Dozer, and the same for Massive. So that's going to be an even footing clash in the center. Looks like second air factory for Mephi, and looking at the adjacency, the same thing for Achieve Jaguar. However, we've got second land factories for the right side team on the mainland, and second land factories as well over here. So both of these teams have an extraordinary amount of faith in their air players. They're not even shoring up their own defenses against skyborne threats with their own factories. I don't know that I have that much faith in my teammates when I move into these games, but hopefully this move pays off for them. Tham and Striker engaging, gonna run right by each other and then turn back as the APM is put in once these teams realize that their units have met each other. A little bit of micro trying to dodge out some shots. The Striker is gonna come out ahead, securing a kill on both the Tham and the Sullen. Second tank moving in. He may have gotten one shot in on one or the other, since he does have a veterancy point. So that tasty mass will be Massive's. About 500 on the T2 wreck, plus another 130 on the T2 tank. Looks like Zoc got his reclaim unopposed, and we do have some manual reclaim orders out on the rocks behind Blast Chilled's base. Same for Achieve Jaguar. He's already sucked up a pretty good portion of his rocks. We'll get a read on the amount of reclaim that these guys have in just a memento. For now, we're going to take a look at ACU placement. Looks like Zoc is moving right up into the center, as is Bully Dozer. Massive taking a few more minutes. He's using the build power on his comm rather than the gun. Going to lay in a total of 4 land factories. Blast Chilled, on the other hand, moving up to the front immediately to secure his forward mexes and lay in a point defense for a little bit of extra denial should units come his way. Zoc going for a third land factory, 4 planned for Bully Dozer, and then an air factory. So he is going to build his own air force, just very late in the game. A scout might have saved him here. There's a single solitary tank moving over to the left. Probably will be able to secure a kill on that mass extractor. Seeing wall sections queued up for Bully Dozer very early on. Nice to create a choke point where your ACU can more easily control units that are trying to run by. Nobody else has wall sections planned as of yet. Funny thing about Twin Rivers, it is deceptively wide. You would think on a map like this that this is an easy choke point to defend, but you've got to remember that there is a little bit of a path right here to run around, and your ACU does not have enough range to cover more than a third of the actual pass, which means if you rely too much on your ACU without enough mobile units, you will have run-bys happening, and you will lose expansions. It's one of my own personal weaknesses on this map, where I can never get an even balance between expansion and early combat units to cover all of the landmass. The other thing that you need mobile units for, especially in the context of a team game, is coming to your teammates' assistance. Since there is a wall in the center, point defense are of limited use covering one side and of no use covering the other side of the map. So if you've only got point defense and no bubble units, both of these guys can just team up on your teammate and you will not be able to help him in time. Something to keep in the back of your mind when you're playing this map. Zoc now throwing down some wall sections. Looks like he's coming from both directions, creating a little bit of a unit funnel that is right next to his ACU, so we'll be able to move just a little bit and cover pretty much any angle of attack for units coming through the walls. Looks like Mephi is going for a T2 air factory upgrade and also putting out a transport. I'd be curious to know what he's going to build out of said transport, as it might, I don't know, he may be doing something to help out his team on the mainland, or he might be going for a naval factory. You never really can tell. Although I think the naval factory would probably be a bad idea, seeing as he is Aeon, and Aeon units are not really going to be able to exert control over the landmass until the T3 phase. Bulldozer moving up out of his own comfort zone and into the territory belonging to Massive, probably hoping to force a change in ownership. Massive does, at least temporarily, have more units. Blast Shield actually splitting up his forces, trying to move in on the north as well as the south, but Zoc using those wall sections to his advantage. He's going to secure one area with his ACU and stream all of his units to the other. Unfortunately, going to lose that engineer that had the wall queue, but he will be able to prevent the run by. Bulldozer getting up into range now. He's actually going to secure the reclaim and then try to get a kill on that mass extractor. He's keeping his tanks to the rear. Of course, if you can meat shield with your ACU to a certain degree, you can keep more of your tanks alive and keep a higher potential damage output than your opponent has. Massive actually has a T1 point defense backing him up. Bulldozer is going to want to get out of range of that very quickly indeed in order to not lose too much of his health pool. Seraphim and UEF ACUs are pretty close in total HP values, so it doesn't take much damage to tip the balance of the scales away from you. That was a little bit of a mixed metaphor on my part. I tried to salvage it, hopefully it made sense. Achieve Jaguar's got a pretty good amount of interceptors, definitely more than Mephi, but it looks like Mephi is doing a little bit better of a job moving towards T2. Achieve Jaguar actually went T2 on his ACU as well as on his factory. Perhaps he was going to go for an aggressive commander, I'm not really sure, but he's now using it to build TMD and some storage on his mass extractors, moving his ACU over to the south side. We'll probably try to pull some shenanigans. One thing to bear in mind when you're playing on the Twin Rivers is that TACT missiles are able to reach from the island to the main landmass. If you build one right there, it's able to reach these two mass extractors and pretty much the entire base on this side. So you've got to build TMD not only between you and your direct opponent, but also around the outskirts of your base so that you don't get whacked upside the head from an unexpected direction. Achieve Jaguar pushing out some air scouts to move across the north side. He's either going to be scouting orange or moving up to the airbase to attempt to scouts over there. Mephi getting his second T2P gen online and building Swift Winds now. He will not have to build many of them to overwhelm the number of interceptors that Achieve Jaguar has. Achieve Jaguar is still building interceptors, even though he does have a T2 air factory. That's a little weird, not gonna lie. Maybe a leftover queue from a bygone era. Looks like the first T2 power generator is gonna come up, but that is not adjacent to the air factory. So Mephi is going to be in a better position overall to move to a T3 air factory. T2 transport out, might be moving his ACU to the mainland. You never know, but it looks like that is actually going to move south. That's probably going to be a gift. Gonna give it to one of the other guys to load up some units and move in. Speaking of units, I spy some Sparkies. I think I know what the south side or left side team, sorry, is actually planning. This could get a little interesting. Hopefully Achieve Jaguar will be able to deny shenanigans, or I don't know. We'll see. Transport is gifted and moved over. Interceptors moving to the south in order to provide a little bit of protection. Actually, all of those were gifted back to green. So Mephie's now going to be in control of the entire Air Force. It's going to move up, directly engage with the Chief Jaguar's interceptor cloud, probably going to keep them away as this drop is organized. So we know that drop's going for the south. Flak moving in, that could potentially be devastating for Mephie's air units, but he is going to be able to secure all the kills before the flak starts taking its toll. That's all the room he needed. Transport was queued directly over the ACU, but that was spotted in time. Now I'm gonna move over to the other edge. There is a T2 engineer back here somewhere that might be able to build a T2 point defense. Chief Jaguar, of course, does have the T2 suite on his ACU as well, so he's going to be able to get up an Oblivion turret right there. I don't think that this drop is going to live very long. Probably should have dropped over in the rear of the base close to the P-gens and away from that ACU. First shot is a misfire, going to miss completely, but 2 blows from the Oblivion turrets with all those engineers clumped up, and they all will go to meet their makers. Actually, the maker is right over here because there are not any organic beings in those engineers. Wouldn't that be awesome if you could reincarnate your own units, especially the vetted ones? Sorry, that's a little bit of a tangent there. Other Oblivion turret is still going up. I would definitely be reclaiming those at this point. I think the drop over here could have done a whole lot more damage. Could have gotten 2 or 3 T1 point defense down, would not have been within easy reach of a Chief Jaguar's ACU. T2 point defense stops there. He would have had to walk much, much further, and he could have potentially knocked the power generators offline. As it is, he was able to take out 2 T2 mass extractors, so probably mass-wise and eco-denial-wise, he did come out ahead, but that could have been a whole lot better. Tac launcher firing away for Bully Dozer, but there's already TMD up on both sides of these bases. Let me take a look at what the intel looks like. Bully Dozer has no intel. So this side, their scouts are streaming now, but that's a little late. Mephie not keeping good eyes on the ground, so these guys do not know what is going on, and that's a whole lot of mass wasted. 180 mass per TAC missile plus the cost, I think 1,000 or so of the launcher itself. That could have been several T2 tanks had he only known that it was pointless to build such a thing. T2 factory online for Blast Shield, heavily assisted. I don't see any move towards T3 yet. Nice grouping of units around Massive as he moves up to assault Bully Dozer's base. Bully Dozer has the T2. The UEF commander has gun and nano, which is not a combination that you see a lot of the time. 56 regen per tick with a veterancy already versus 20 regen for the T2 comm. That UEF commander is dangerous at the T1 portion of the game, but we are solidly into T2. Blast Shield moving all of his units over to this side. Zoc is going to bring his ACU over as well, and he's queued up more more wall sections on that side to further screw with the pathfinding of any potential units that might come through. Looks like Blast Shield is going to have to deal with some pillars, but that shouldn't be an issue for him with the point defense that he already has set up. Bully Dozer moving to the front line with his ACU as he moves his tanks to the south. Maybe his meat shielding will be enough. There's a T2 point defense online in the rear as well that has already gotten 6 kills. So good on him for that. Bully Dozer retreating with his damaged ACU. As he starts feeling the hurt from all of these units, Bully Dozer does have overcharge with plenty of power to use it, but notice that Massive has shields online. The shield generators are a good investment in any regard, but when you mix them with your T2 forces like this, when you know you're going up against an enemy ACU, you can negate an overcharge per shield gen. A couple of hundred health, few hundred power to run the thing, and you save all that mass where the ACU might have been killing 2, 3, perhaps even 4 T2 units with a single overcharge. Now it just flips a shield out of existence. That shield can recharge later on to take another shot, and all of your units survive. Very successful engagement for Massive. Units given over to him by Blast Shield to keep them under the solitary control of one commander. Massive is going to be forced back a little bit by the point defense online from Zoc. However, there are already Flapjacks moving up from the rear. Flapjacks actually built preemptively. The point defense on this side were not active when those were rolling up, so nice preemptive response from Massive. These point defense will be able to hold for a certain amount of time, but with the amount of mobile missile launchers moving out, it looks like one factory might be completely dedicated to them. It's eventually gonna be too much. Mephi sending a lot of power to Bully Dozer. With his T2 ACU, all that extra build power he had, he went ahead and dropped a nano and a gun upgrade, now boasting 80 regen on his ACU, far outstripping that of Massive. He's also got a 1650 health pool, nearly identical to Massive's, even though Massive has 2 veterancy and Bully Dozer has none. The nano regen for Seraphim is a stronger and more expensive upgrade overall that also adds HP. UEF strictly gives you a bit of an advantage in regen, definitely a lot, versus another commander that only has the gun upgrade, but it does not increase your health pool. Triple overcharge on some pillars there just a moment ago. Bully Dozer trying to stay on the front line, but Massive just has too many units. One thing to bear in mind with the now 86 regen on this ACU thanks to the veterancy, he will be able to back out of the fight temporarily and come back at nearly full health very, very quickly, whereas the UEF is going to take a little bit longer to regen. T2 point defense online being built by a Sparky. Man, I've seen 2 people build Sparkies this game. Since when have these been a commonly used unit? Sparky is going to die, unfortunately not completing his point defense, but Massive has done a good job of following up his forces with the defensive point defense. That was another repetitively redundant statement from yours truly, Brink. Those are going to let him fall back and deal damage over time to the units that are chasing him. Unfortunately, he is about to lose one of those point defense, but thankfully he has a couple more as he moves towards the rear. ASF online for Mephi. He's about to start his 3rd T3 power generator, and I would like to point out that his adjacency is pristine. Double T2 adjacency at the beginning portion. Built his T3 PGen preemptively to be adjacent to his next support factory. Then he is going to build his 3rd PGen adjacent to his HQ in order to take care of all of his power needs. The Chief Jaguar, on the other hand, actually coming back from a stall right there, barely able to produce as many ASF due to the fact that his air factory not only didn't have adjacency from his T2 power generators, but he doesn't have enough space to get adjacency with his T3s. He is probably going to start laying in an air factory pattern to the north, but we'll have to wait and see how he handles that. Mephi, that is incredibly annoying. Why are you gifting so much? Mephi's still in the midst of an upgrade. I'm not actually sure what it was, and now there's a million things in the way, so whatever, I'm not going to worry about it. We've got some Mongoose on the field from Zoc. Interesting to see people using such a unit on this kind of map. He's not really got any room to move around and kite, so not particularly sure what he has planned with those. But if he is able to micro them well, he will be able to kill off some of these pillars without taking a single lick of damage. Blast Shield building a Clink hammer out here in the middle of nowhere. I'm not a huge fan of the stationary T2 Arty. Oh look, a drop. That could make life a little difficult for someone. Looks like it's going to be headed over to Bully Dozer's base. Although with the amounts of ASF online, I doubt that it is going to be successful. So a Clink hammer placed here is going to be able to pay for itself at some point. You can look at the range here. He's got a good bead on some of those units down that way. The Clink hammer is a rather expensive artillery. However, on a map with a constricted play area like this, any units coming in are going to be taking fire from the Arty. So if that thing can stay alive for minutes on end, it will eventually pay for itself. Again, I'm not a big fan of building it because it's a massive investment, but it can prove useful over the long term. T2 gunships moving in to take out a mass extractor, but as the units retreat, surely there are flak mixed in, and there are. So those gunships are going to get away from that space. Looks like the frontline mass extractors are going to go down for Massive. I'd like to point out that he has T2'd and capped nearly all of his rear mechs while he left the front line at T1. I always get questions about when you should tech up to T2 mass extractors, where you should do so, when you should cap, and this is an excellent opportunity to show one of the higher ranked players doing what they do best, eco-whoring. The frontline mass extractors are at a very large risk of being lost, so upgrading those is probably not a good idea. The ones in the rear are probably the safest, so they are T2 and capped long before some of the forward mexes are. This one is still T1. These are all T2 with caps planned, and these are T2 with caps planned. These are the ones that he can protect. So there's a little bit of the logic for you. The most advantageous path to take is capture all the T1 mechs as you can, upgrade all of them to T2, then cap all of them, then go to T3 upgrades one by one. But yeah, if you got one in danger of being lost, definitely skip that upgrade. T2 radar on the front line was a good idea since it gave Blast Chilled a nice little window into what was going on the battlefield, but Mongoose were able to zap that out of existence. Percival's now lining up for Blast Chill, so he does have the T3 upgrade. Is there anyone else? Looks like we've got a T3 upgrade underway there, and the first Percival rolling off the factory for Zoc. Chief Jaguar appears to have solved his power problems. He is now building ASF in earnest, and he is also getting SAMs online. So that's going to prevent him from getting air factory locked. If he does start losing air, he can just retreat to his island, and any units that are foolish enough to pursue will eventually fall to the SAMs he has at his base. T3 mobile artillery online, probably expecting a T3 upgrade. That is what Zoc is going for. He's got the shield, he's got the gun, he's got T2, and he's now moving towards the T3. That is a very tough commander indeed, with a total of nearly 40,000 HP, 20k on Bully Dozer's commander as well. This is a unit that you don't see every day. Spearheads moving up to the front line. Those sons of guns do 800 damage per missile, and they have the close-knit firing sequence of the UEF cruisers. So all you have to do is put them on hold fire, target them down, and then release hold fire on all of them at once. It synchronizes the missile firing pattern, and they're able to very easily overwhelm TMD. Then once the missiles start hitting, you've got a tool that is much more precise than the T3 mobile artillery, and it's able to immediately kill off shields. I believe that every single shield has less than 800 HP, but I'm not 100% sure on that. The Seraphim T3 might have more health than that. I don't know, we'll wait for a T3 shield upgrade. I might be way off base. Nonetheless, this base is going to be a bit beleaguered. Percivals will be ready to move in at a moment's notice, and between the T3 artillery and the spearheads being built by both of the right-hand players, I don't think that this base is long for this world. T3 upgrade is complete. T2 point events going down in hopes of eliminating some of these threats. Of course, when the T3 point events comes online, mobile missile launchers will no longer be of use, but I believe the spearheads have nearly identical range to the T3 mobile artillery, so both of those will be able to stay out of reach. Blast Chilled on a very similar upgrade path to Zoc, but he is missing that final T3 upgrade. T2 PGen went to Zoc, probably due to some power issues, and oh my, I almost missed. We've got 5 Percivals heading into the base. Zoc is about to be in a mess of trouble. He's got a Percival out. T2 point events going down. T1 at this point would probably be a better idea. T3 PGen definitely in danger of going down. I am not sure how much that's actually going to hurt him, because there should be quite a bit of team overflow, one of the advantages to playing on a team rather than solo. But he is going to lose a substantial chunk of his base. Looks like we got gunships coming in from the south side. The flak was picked off before. Mephi's going to have more than enough air to maintain those gunships in position. The Percivals that looped around the south were able to kill off a mass extractor right there. Jaguar jumping on the opportunity to eco-whore even more. He's going to drop engineers there immediately to get that reclaim. Percival standing in line to release shots at that HQ. Zoc might be able to survive the power situation thanks to Team Overflow, but if he loses that HQ, that is going to be a massive amount of hurt and a perfect kill. 1,600 damage on a 1,600 HP factory. It is down. Now Zoc is going to have to rebuild that entire thing. He does have plenty of build power, but it's still going to take him a minute to do it. And in that time, Blast Shield is still going to be producing his units. He actually redropped his Percivals. I think he was thinking about coming down here with those, and then he decided against it with that low HP transport. Loads of spearheads. Spearheads? Yes. Spearheads firing at this base. Just a ridiculous amount of damage. I would definitely use the Shift G command if you have spearheads, because any one of those units connecting on the shields, like I said before, is going to get a kill. So you don't want to have them all focused. That is a lot of wasted damage potential. Also remember, 800 damage per missile if these ACUs are standing still and take a full volley from 6 spearheads. That is going to be 6. I'm not going to try to figure that up in my head. That is way too much maths. Probably if all of these landed a single firing cycle at 3 missiles times 800 damage per pop, that would auto kill Bully Dozer's ACU with a scant 20,000 HP, great though it may seem. Jaguar moving into the north for an air engagement. I'm not sure what he was thinking on that, but he is going to get a nice turnoff. Mephi was not expecting that collision, and he did not have a good response in hand. ASF picking off all of the green things in the sky. Jaguar are going to come out with a strong win on that front. Sam's going down, trying to defend. Mephi has actually got a nuke launcher built. Looking at the south side, Jaguar is now frantically building his own defense. Bear in mind that the Strat launcher takes 5 minutes to load, the defense takes 4 minutes to load, and if you throw some assistance on top of that, it loads even more quickly. So Jaguar has a decent chance of defending against this nuke. I think that the greater problem is going to be in these bases, because Jaguar is rocking 193 mass per tick, far and away more than anyone else on this map. He's invested all of the mass that Mephi put into the nuke into even more eco, so hopefully he'll be able to survive that nuke and use that advantage. The problem is going to be that Massive is only at 172, Blast Shield at 160. Both of them are building units like their lives depend on it, because they do. And that's going to hamper their efforts in building some of that strat defense that we all love to have in our bases. Zoc asking for Omni coverage. They are falling back in unison. Unison. I've seen that word printed lots of places, and sometimes I don't hear them pronounced very often. Looks like Massive has got quite a few units, but not all of them are combat. That's a bit of an issue. He's got a lot of shielding, some T2s, but the majority of his T3 units are spearheads and T3 mobile artillery. Only 2, maybe 3 Percivals in the entire grouping. Blast Shield is slightly better off. He does have, looks like about 6 Percivals. Yeah, 5 or 6 on the front line. So he is in a little bit better of a position, but these guys on the south side are running sniper bots and Authams. These guys have spearheads and T3 mobile artillery. Do you see a problem with any potential engagement that may occur? Of course, the sheer number of blips may fool your opponent into thinking that they cannot possibly challenge the might of your army on the front line, but anyone who is watching carefully would realize that this is not a very strong combat grouping. Looks like Percivals are being airdropped. It's funny to see drops being used even in these close quarters. Do bear in mind that does make your units get to the front line a whole lot quicker. And of course, in this case, Percival's on the rear of the base are an excellent idea. Chief Jaguar has achieved shenanigans. He is building a tac launcher, which is furiously firing missiles into Zock's base. He does not have any engineers nearby with which to build a TMD. There is a T3 right there, but the shielding is down, and we might potentially see a kill from that tac launcher on the PGen that was rebuilt such a short time ago. Percival's moving through to the south side, along with a couple of strat bombers. The Chief Jaguar immediately using his air superiority to fire off a couple of strats, which will hopefully be able to take out some of these T3 mass extractors. Probably not going to be that successful. Chief Jaguar did not keep his ASF in a protective position. Those two ASF are going to be able to knock out those strat bombers relatively easily. Double drop happening on the mechs. Going to erase not only the mass extractor, but most of the wreckage as well, denying that reclaim. Both the strats going to get shot down. That could have been so much better, but alas, it was not meant to be. Fatboy moving up to the front line. Zock is going to be able to use that to secure his position. Bear in mind that the Fatboy does have more range than the spearheads or the T3 mobile artillery, but there is a group of Clink hammers going down for Blast Shield. I'm not sure that they have that scouted, so we're going to go take a look at Blast Shield's side. Nope, they have no radar. They have no intel. A lot of the stuff back here is not tagged, so that could potentially cause some issues for anything that they're trying to do. It would be a shame to move in all of those units into the firing range of the Fatboy without even realizing. On Mephi's side, he has now loaded the nuke. It is launching. Have to see where the son of a gun lands. Jaguar is... oh my goodness. He's almost and loaded. That was a little too close for comfort, but it is gonna work out for him. Massive grinning away because I'm sure he knows that it's loaded. This would have been bad. Notice that he is running away from his base because he thought that would be headed for him. He only had his defense halfway loaded. Mephi, oh, come on. He could have done all the damage in the world to this base, or even knocked out Blast Shield's massive production facility, but both of these guys are going to get nuke defense loaded before the next nuke is launched, and that is going to cause this to be a complete and total waste of mass, at least in the short term. They still could potentially land some nukages on some of the units in the middle. That would be highly effective because the nuke launcher is very close to the units that it's hitting. Not much time to dodge there. But for the meantime, that was a massive, mass investment that is not going to be very useful. Taking a look at the production in the T3 mass extractors, or lack thereof, Mephi is actually way behind on economy due to him not stalling in order to load that nuke as quickly as possible. So he's only at 180 mass income as opposed to Chief Jaguar's 229. A huge amount of mass, 50 in the lead. So he might be able to play into the end game a little bit better than Mephi is able to. Fatboy moving up on the front. I love the assistance here. T3 shields of the Seraphim variety helping to protect that Fatboy. Two Sarah shields double the shield capacity of this T4 unit, and all together they're going to be able to easily shrug off the fire from these Clink hammers, and that fire base is going to go down. Blast Shield frantically building in the rear. He's trying to get a T3 shield generator online, and then probably going to finish off that Fatboy, but this could present a little bit of an issue. Of course, there are some strat bombers on this side that the Chief Jaguar has been storing for an occasion such as this, but I'm not sure that even with that number of strats, he'll be able to knock out the Fatboy with all of those shields. People have asked me in the recent past, Brink, why don't people use Seraphim mobile shields more? I don't have an answer for you, because they're freaking awesome. Fatboy will survive at 3,900 health. Two Clink hammer shells will put it out of its misery. Actually, more than that. I think I underestimated or overestimated the amount of damage that those actually did. Seraphim shields still available. They need to move to that Fatboy ASAP. Will the Clink Hammer be able to knock that son of a gun out? That's at 450 HP. Shields are in place, so I don't know that he's going to have the opportunity. Second Fatboy moving up from the rear as a third is already finished in Zock's base. Holy smokes! Bully Dozer putting a pile of assistance on that as well. These guys are team building those Fatboys. I don't think I've seen T4s produce that quickly in a long time. They've got a combined economy of about 500, which is how they're able to force those things out so incredibly quickly. 3,000 HP on that Fatboy. Now he is regenning slowly but surely. The shield will be back online in about 30 seconds or so. Thank goodness for all of the mobile shields in Massive's unit variety, because if those were not there, he would be losing units hand over fist due to the AoE on those arty shots. Fatboy's put out a tremendous amount of damage, about 4,000 total, combining all of the cannons with the Hell's Fury riot gun, which is stronger than a lot of people give it credit for. 500 DPS, one on each side of the Fatboy if it can get both of them firing on the same target, which granted is highly unlikely. 1,000 DPS total, plus another 3K on the arty. It's awesome, but the disadvantage is that the damage is spread, so single target removal is not great. Arties like this can survive for a surprising amount of time just due to the arty shots missing, but give it a big enough hitbox, like a group of units or a megalith or another Fatboy, and the damage output is ridiculous. Couple that with the range, Fatboys stack amazingly well. If you put two GCs in the same spot, you know, groups of Percivals can shred through that pretty quickly, but when you're kiting out with a Fatboy, the damage stacks and stacks, and you can't even reach them to kill them. Chief Jaguar has actually just gotten a nuke launcher online. He's building another T3 power generator on the other side. He is going to be able to do the nasty himself in just a minute. Mephi saying, oh, that was stupid, didn't launch. Did you have another nuke loaded? He did have another nuke loaded. Oh, he could have taken out all of those units on the front line if he had been thinking. Make T3 arty, I've got 16k mass plus 300. Mephi is going to go for it apparently. Have to see where he plans that out. I'm not sure that T3 artillery is the way to go, but I guess I can see the logic, because 3 Fatboys on the front line, you gotta think you're pretty secure in your position. And then, yeah, I think with their intel level, the T3 artillery is probably a good idea, because they feel like they've got the landmass secured, but obviously it's pretty difficult to actually get in and kill the bases, because they are building defenses as they move back. I don't know. Those T3 artilleries, when they work super fantastically well. If you have a T3 artillery and your enemy does not, more than likely you're going to win, because they're going to be able to take out a lot of valuable stuff. However, that is an immense amount of mass to pour into something. I think the T3 artillery is about the same investment as 3 Fatboys. So this T3 artillery could make this total 6, which would absolutely shrek pretty much anything. So, I don't know. We'll have to see how it plays out for the left side team. Seraphim shields covering these Fatboys incredibly well. T2 stationary shields trying to help out on the front line of the opposing team. Looks like Blast Shield's got a single Fatboy out, not building another, but is building huge numbers of Clink Hammers. Clink Hammers are pretty much the only way to decisively deal with Fatboys other than a Strat Bomber snipe. They do outrange Fatboys by a little bit, and if you have, I think it's 14 is what I calculated the other day, something like that, can kill a Fatboy in one firing cycle as long as all of the arty hits, which is not guaranteed, especially at the longest range of the artillery. 2 Fatboys already down due to the amount of fire coming in from those stationary arties. You gotta remember there's even more on this side as well. There's now 2 defensive Fatboys in the Clink Hammers versus 2 offensive Fatboys and very few units to back it up. So we've actually seen a shift where Massive and Blast Shield have a pretty large unit advantage versus the left side team. Now, if they were to take advantage of that immediately, they might be able to wreak some havoc, but every minute they wait gives more time for more defenses to come online on this side as well. So I don't know how far they're actually going to make it. The T3 artillery is well on its way. Just crossed into the 25% mass mark. That could be a problem. Jaguar has nearly loaded his nuke. He is pushing along with a positive income. He's going to be able to load it at full speed. Whereas Mephi, he is getting mass donations from his team, but he's spent a bit of time stalling, and it looks like he's going to stall pretty freaking hard once again. So he's not going to load that nuke. That's not going to be good for him. The question is, does Jaguar know that? Those of you who watch the live stream know that I've already seen this game, so I am well aware of what is going to happen. But for the purposes of this cast, I am going to sit on that little bit of information. Now, what is this? There we go. Must have accidentally paused it at some point with a casual click in the wrong location. Alright, Jaguar could go for one of these bases. There's not actually... there is a nuke defense over here, but that has just been constructed as well. So this would be the much safer target for the nuke. I think this was the last game that I fully casted in the live stream before I started having massive amounts of computer problems. So after this, it is all going to be a mystery. Nuke has launched. It's going to head up to the north side. And that is going to connect. Mephi is not loaded. Nuke defense at about 70%, but he was mass stalled quite heavily indeed. That nuke launch was placed in a supreme position because Mephi's not even going to be able to run. He's trapped against the rock right here. Not enough time to run to the left. Can't run far enough to the right. That is the end of the air player. That T3 artillery is of no more concern. That leaves Zoc and Bully in a little bit of a bad situation. They've already got Fatboy number 4 on the way with number 5 planned as well, building at a furious pace. Strat bombers moving in from Achieve Jaguar. Those are, I'm not sure where the target is on those, probably for the Fatboys. Yes, they are headed that way, with Janus's also coming in to damage the shield coverage. That large AoE is going to lay in damage on every single shield at once. First Fatboy is going to survive, but just barely. Bear in mind that all of these Clink hammers are in the rear. Last straggler of a strap bomber going to take out that fatty. And we've got more coming in now. Shield not looking too steady. And Fatboy number 2 has perished. There's a third online with barely a blip of shielding. Sam's coming up in Zoc's base. Actually, those are flak. Never mind. One Sam and a couple flaks. Third Fatboy gonna fail. There's now 3 on this side. A Duke on the way. And a Novax. These guys are very secure in their chances of winning. Jaguar loading that nuke as fast as he possibly can. Strat Bomber's now changing course to go after some of the economy in the rears of these bases. We've got a chicken online from Bully Dozer, but I don't know how much good that is going to do in the face of 3 Fatboys covered by a potentially massive number of Percivals. Let's take a look at how many are actually on the map. Creature with 15, that by itself is enough to kill the chicken. And then Blast Shield is going to add another 20. No more than that. Let me zoom out some more. 27 to the map. That was a highly unfortunate nuke. Blast Shield has already dropped out there to reclaim all of this lovely mass. 54k in the artillery alone. Zoc now under fire, trying to build up some shielding to protect that Fatboy. He's now going to have to run for it. Fatboy is down. All these Percivals are just going to pour over this base. There is not a chance in hell that these guys are going to come out alive. Oh, how the cookie crumbles. Oh, look, there's Navy from a Chief Jaguar. Has probably been there for quite a while, judging by the amount of cruisers, but I was focused on other things and did not notice. Percival's coming in for a drop on the north side. Blast Shield determined to take these guys out. Zoc at 5,200 HP and falling back as quickly as he can. T3 Shield just came back up online. Chicken doing a fantastic job of mitigating the Percival problem over on the right. Thankfully, they're streaming in and not all clumped up like they need to be able to take out a T4. Zoc covered by all of this shielding. Strap bombers coming in, I'm sure targeted on that commander. Fatboy is slowly creeping up as they eat through the bases. There's a couple of T2 artillery over there, but that's not going to be nearly enough to knock out a fatty. 29,000 HP remaining on that chicken. But remember, Percival, 1,600 damage per shot, already dipping down near the 20k mark. And there's a veterancy, so that chicken will live to fight another day. Another Fatboy goes down in Zoc's base. He's still got a chance. A very slim chance, but a chance nonetheless. There's a desync, but I do know that it doesn't affect the outcome of this game. Novak's coming in to kill the ACU. What an embarrassing way to go. Blast Shield just rubbing salt in the wound on that one. And that just leaves Bully Dozer, who is going to run up towards the front of his base and accept his fate. Alrighty guys, that is gonna wrap up the Twin Rivers round. It all came down to that one nuke, epically placed. Mephi doomed himself with the T3 artillery. I think the T3 artillery was potentially a good idea because it did have the potential to break the stalemate in the middle and kill off one of these bases, but in the end, it didn't even matter because the mass stall killed his chances of building that nuke defense. And then when the air player was removed, yeah, strap bombers just kill everything. Okay, that is gonna wrap up this game. I am going to move on to the next one in the tournament. Hopefully you guys will join me over there in that video. I will see you in the next one. That is gonna wrap everything up for this video, guys. If you enjoyed it, feel free to drop a like and share it with someone. If you want to support the channel, catch the streams, or join the Discord, check out the links in the description. Thank you all for being at least partially insane, and I will see you in the next one.